I'm going to show you how to do some sprinkled gold leaf on the edge of a book. The edge that I've got here has already been sanded, and it's also been painted with acrylics. In fact, in this case, because I don't want a flat colour, the paint has been applied just by dabbing with a piece of cotton wool, so I get a mottled effect. And I want to put some sprinkled gold leaf on top of that. I need to prepare everything in advance because it's quite a sort of a quick process initially. I've masked everything around just so that I don't get glue everywhere. Because what I'm going to do is apply the gold leaf using some weak PVA solution. And this is PVA that's been diluted probably about 3:1, so it really is quite weak. I'm going to use a toothbrush and sprinkle that on as the adhesive. My gold leaf is already prepared because I need to apply that before this soaks in or dries out. So it's quite a quick process. So first things first, let's get some adhesive on here. So just sprinkling on there. I don't want too much on this particular binding. I mean, a little bit more than that, I think. Yeah, that looks okay. Making sure it's evenly covered in the areas that you want it. I've got my gold leaf, which is just in a sieve, a tea strainer, something like that. And I'm just going to rub it through quite gently to create an even sprinkling over the whole of the book edge. As I say, on this one I don't want too much, but you can put on as much or as little as you want. And I am aware that later in the process some of this will come off, so you go with slightly more than you originally think may be appropriate. Okay, leave that there. Now whilst that's still wet, I'm going to lightly press it down to a piece of bank paper, just some very thin paper, to make sure that the gold is in contact with the adhesive. Very gently. I can see through this thin paper what's happening, so it's quite a useful thing to have. Just gently. And then lift up, and as I say, some of the gold may well come off with that. I can see that just a little bit of gold's come off. I'm going to now relax a little bit because everything's in contact where it should be. I'm going to get a clean piece of bank paper, and this is now starting to dry, so I can press down a little bit more firmly. Again, some of the gold may come off. It's a little bit down to experience that. It will vary a little bit how much comes off. Okay, so a little bit more gold has come off, and it's starting to look okay. It's the sort of level of coverage that I'm after just there. Make sure it's all of the gold is pressed down. Of course, it's only going to adhere to where the PVA spots were. So even if there's some on there now that's been pressed down, but it's not where PVA is, that will come off at a future point. Okay, the next stage then at this point, as it continues to dry, is to consolidate that by burnishing. Again, through a piece of clean bank paper. That goes back on there. I'm using a flat agate burnisher. Well, actually this one I think is a bloodstone burnisher, but same thing. And just gently at first burnish across the book edge. Not a huge amount of pressure. Let's have a look at it. Yeah, we're still getting one or two small pieces of gold coming off, but I'm quite happy with the way it's looking now. I'm going to now do this again, but with a little bit more pressure. So I'm going across the edge of the book and moving, in this case, from right to left quite slowly. make sure it's all been pressed. There we go. And now I can burnish direct. The burnishing will give it a nice lustre, a nice sort of shine, but primarily it helps seal the gold to the adhesive. And I can see a slight change in colour as I'm doing this, as the gold itself is burnished. You have to go slowly from right to left, or I guess left to right if you're left-handed. Otherwise you'll see there are lines that you're creating on the edge of the book, which of course you don't want. So it's a gradual process moving along the length of the book edge right to the end. Make sure the burnish is clean, and I'm going to do that one more time. Either side of the book block I have foam board supports. They're there because the book is rounded and backed, so obviously you don't want to crush the shoulders. So I put those on prior to sanding the edge down. I do have another YouTube video about decorating a book edge, which talks about sanding and painting and so on, so that's kind of done before I get to the sprinkling stage. Okay, now just check along the edge, looking at reflections. Yeah, that looks nice and neat. I'm happy with that. So one final stage in this process, and that is that I'm going to apply a wax coating, Renaissance wax, which is a white wax, a microcrystalline wax. And so what I do with this, although you can apply it with a cloth, I find it personally better to do it with a soft brush, and just a little bit at a time. That way I don't really run the risk of scraping off any of the gold. So I can see as I'm going along where the wax is being applied, because it makes it go a matte colour at this stage. And often I will apply 2 coats. And this Renaissance wax not only makes it shiny, but it does protect it as well. It's as I say, it's a microcrystalline wax, so it gives it a sort of a hard protective layer. It's also quite nice because it dries almost instantaneously. Just check that's all covered. Yep. Okay, although it's supposed to be instantaneously drying, I'm going to leave it just for 30 seconds or something just to dry off. Okay, so just buff it now with a clean soft cloth. I'm just going to do it very lightly to start with, because there's a sort of bit of drag and a bit of wax comes off, and I don't want to take off any of the gold if I can help it. A little bit coming off the edge there, that's fine. If you get wax coming off on the cloth, just rotate the cloth a bit. And you can feel when it starts to, the resistance disappears. A clean bit of cloth. There we go. I think I need to put 1 coat on this one. It feels absolutely fine with that. So I can remove the protective sheets. I can undo the book. hopefully you can see that. And what I tend to do to loosen it is just wiggle the edge a little bit. Now you'll find that some gold will loosen here, and that's simply because it wasn't in a place where it's where there was adhesive, so some of it will lift. And to help it along the way, like that. Wipe off the loose, and there we are, one decorated edge with sprinkled gold on there.